The movie opens in the middle of what seems like a frat party on a beach. A guy records everyone as they rave around and smooch random people. One of the guys, Mitch, forces everyone to hand over their phones so the glimpses of this crazy party don't circulate all over the internet. Then, two guys, Vance and Gilbert, drag in a large, oozy mass of something, professing that they found it on the shore. No face lacks the expression of absolute disgust, but they eventually relent and continue their party. Unbeknownst to them, this bizarre object will become the harbinger of chaos when the sun rises. The scene abruptly cuts to the following morning. Everyone is passed out. A girl named Kaylee is with Mitch while four of their friends, Vance, Ronnie, Chanda, and Jonah, are in a car nearby. Kaylee is the first to wake up. She is looking around when she sees a bird on the beach scrambling to get away. At first, she thinks it's caught up in something, but all of a sudden, it vanishes under the sand. Aghast, Kaylee rushes to warn everyone, but when she turns around, she sees her other friend Marcia, who was lying naked on a bench, leap onto the sand. Her feet get stuck, but she can't budge from her place. Amidst the confusion, Vance dashes towards her. Kaylee begs him to stop, but he tunes her out. Unfortunately, he tumbles over the sand, nowhere close to Marcia, unable to move. Vance's face, which was facing the sand, starts to be brutally gnawed by something until his eye pops out and his flesh is unrecognizable. Soon after, both Vance and Marcia sink into the sand and disappear. Distraught, those left alive start racking their brains for any way out. When they think of calling for help, they recall that their phones are locked in the car trunk. Jonah attempts to turn the car on, but discovers a dead battery. That's it. The group agonizes. They are completely stuck on this godforsaken beach. In a moment of madness, Kaylee nears the deck and holds her hand just over the sand. Both her and Mitch are astonished to see fine white strings trying to get hold of her hand from between the grains of sand. Right then, another one of her friends, Gilbert, stirs from his sleep, only to find himself lodged in a trash can. He curses the guys for jamming him into the bin after he passed out the other night. Others warn him not to move. Gilbert is confused, but obliges when he hears that Marcia and Vance are dead. Mitch and Kaylee go inside the cabin together, unaware of the jealous look Jonah gives them. Kaylee and Jonah used to be in a relationship some time ago, but they broke up. In fact, Kaylee herself is hurt over the fact that Jonah moved on so quickly with their mutual friend Chanda. Moving on, all five of them are rattled as their only hope left is being found by someone else. Ronnie, who has just lost her partner Vance, begins writing a letter to her mother just in case something happens to her. They are running out of resources when they have the horrifying realization that all the attendees of yesterday's party are gone, all of them drowned in the sand, just like Vance and Marcia. Just then, Kaylee notices the gooey ball from the other night near the water and sees that it has hatched. They figure that it was an egg of some kind of monster that lives under the sand. It has been consuming living things, mostly humans, as its food. They deduce that since it was only born last, it can't be too large or spread across the whole beach. Kaylee formulates a plan to decipher how large the monster is. She starts throwing pieces of sausages around the beach at various distances to guess the creature's size. Gilbert then sees another bird being sucked into the sand and freaks out. He finally accepts that everything his friends were saying was the truth. Meanwhile, the others argue against throwing the sausages, asserting that it is their only source of food. Kaylee still doesn't stop, though. Her attempts bear fruit when the last sausage doesn't get sucked in, and the group celebrates, hopeful that there may be a way out, yet they have no means to reach that far across the beach. Suddenly, Jonah hurries to the back of the car and picks up two surfboards. He carefully lays one on the sand and jumps on top of it. Everyone is delighted when it doesn't sink. Jonah then makes his way to a wooden table close by. Just when he is about to step on it, however, the surfboard moves by itself. Panicked, Jonah almost falls to the ground, and the white strings return, getting a hold of his stomach. He is somehow able to save himself by jumping on the table, but his stomach is hurt. Even just those few strings hurt Jonah like hell, and the friends wonder if it was poison. On the bright side, Jonah locates a satchel full of food items. While going through it, he drops a banana on the ground by mistake, but we're all left surprised to see that it doesn't sink. Jonah hovers his hands over the ground and sees that the banana fell on the part where they lit the bonfire last night, so he figures the creature cannot come out through fire or ash. When he stands, we see the wounds in his stomach get worse and pus starting to come out of it. He starts to freak out, and Kaylee calms him down, telling him to go through the bag. He passes sodas and waters that he found in the bag to everyone while still whimpering in pain. His wounds get worse by the second. Afterwards, Jonah tries throwing cans of drinks to his friends, but the little sacks of pus on his stomach start to burst open. He wails in pain and can't do anything but lie down on the table. Meanwhile, the surfboards on the floor continue to move, showing that the monster is growing and getting stronger. At the same time, Kaylee sees that the strings have started to attach themselves to the car tires to swallow it whole. They realize that impending danger. There is not much time left before the monster grows large enough to devour it all. The mayhem skyrockets as the group has no idea how they're going to escape this charade. Gilbert proposes that their only way out is through their cell phones, which leads Ronnie to plan. She goes on to open the trunk by standing on the bumper of the car, but when the trunk starts to open, they see a car honking nonstop. Ronnie flinches by the sudden noise, which causes her to slip, and her fingers get caught in the trunk. Ronnie is crying out in pain when we see that inside the car is a beach patrol officer. Without a word of conversation, the haughty officer assumes that the group is on drugs and proceeds to not heed any warning they say. In spite of Kaylee yelling at him to stay inside his car, the man steps out of it. The group is surprised when he walks freely on the beach, which prompts him to think that all of them are crazy. It is then revealed, a close-up of his feet, that his leather shoes prevent any strings from sticking to him. The shoes are a barricade to the monster. Afterwards, the officer closes up on Jonah to examine his condition, but is left disgusted by his injuries. Well, no one has an affinity for pus, but the officer is totally heartless in this case. He entirely ignores Jonah's pleas for aid, still presumptuous that he won't heed the needs of drugged-up idiots. Soon, he goes to talk to Kaylee and insults her and Mitch for being reckless teenagers. He then asks Kaylee to step out and is infuriated when she refuses to listen to his commands. He does, after all, seem to have a superiority complex. The officer bullies them by saying that he'll use pepper spray if they don't come down. Unfortunately, the man's car keys jiggle out of his hands and fall on the ground. He bends down to pick them up, but his hands immediately feel heavy and he could not move at all. Soon after, as usual, his arms start to sink into the sand. Kaylee screams at him to use the pepper spray. The lifeguard, listening to her this once, promptly sprays the monster. Still, sadly, the monster's hold was so strong that it chopped away half of the Coast Guard's arm. His arm bleeds profusely and he screams in pain. His hysterics counterfeit his attempts at survival as the strings pull him down again. After he is completely devoured by the sand monster, Kaylee takes the pepper spray he had dropped. Now, Mitch has the brilliant idea to put on some flimsy sandals and wrap towels to cover his feet so that he can run on the sand to get to the officer's car. He believes that because the officer's shoe resisted the creature, his sandals would too. Having no other escape route, Chanda throws the towels at Mitch. Still, fate has its plans. Just as he tries to catch the towels, the wood railing snaps and falls off, taking Mitch down alongside it. We can guess what happened then. Mitch is brutally ripped apart by the monster. Kaylee stares blankly at the puddle of blood on the sand and decides that she has had enough. In her resolve, Kaylee plans again. She hands the broken railing to Chanda, and Kaylee jumps from the lifeguard's tent into the car. As soon as she lands, Kaylee decides to be a little petty and punches Chanda in the face for sleeping with her boyfriend. Moving on from their drama, they help Ronnie to release her fingers from the trunk. Ronnie's finger is bleeding, so they immediately wrap it in a thick towel. Jonah, who has been on the bench the whole time, tells Kaylee that she loves her. Kaylee then tells them of her plan. She wants to use the railing as a bridge to get to Jonah and then bring everyone to the officer's car. Chanda gets the railing and places it on the sand. She walks carefully and manages to reach Jonah. Kaylee does the same. However, they are oblivious to the fact that the monster has already closed up on Gilbert's trash can. His spilling blood has attracted the creature. The three are safely at the bench when Ronnie walks towards them. However, the string latches onto her injured hand, making her fall. Kaylee tries saving her with the help of the pepper spray, but it only works for a moment. The deviant seizes Ronnie and hauls her into the sand, effectively killing her as well. Distraught, Chanda has no time but to move ahead. She wraps the towels around her and dashes towards the car. She successfully clambers on its hood before the strings can catch her. Gilbert celebrates with a holler, but soon his bin starts trembling. The girls plead for him to hold on just a moment, but the creature has other ideas. It soon invades the bin and latches onto Gilbert's legs. Gilbert starts spitting out blood. Soon, the strings, in the form of huge tentacles, snatch him and drag him into the beach. Another then. It isn't over yet, though. The tentacles then shake the car, making Chanda fall on the hood and hit her head. Kaylee yells for her to wake up, but Chanda lays there unmoving, unconscious. Now, Kaylee and Jonah can only wait until Chanda wakes up from her stupor. Hours pass and night arrives. Chanda, who fainted, finally comes to her senses and discovers a raft on top of the patrol car. Without hesitation, she throws the raft on the ground and it fills with air. Using the raft, Chanda finally picks up Jonah and Kaylee. Chanda and Jonah get inside the car, but before Kaylee can come in, a massive glowing tentacle attacks her. The monster has grown to its full and terrifying size. Kaylee gets on top of the car where she finds a gas can. She uses it to light the tentacle on fire and gets inside the car. Meanwhile, the sound of silence is overwhelming. Kaylee and Chanda glance towards Jonah, only to find that he has succumbed to his injuries, ending his hours-long suffering. Kaylee kisses his hand goodbye one last time. The girls hug each other and cry, mourning the loss of their friends. Kaylee and Chanda, who can't drive in their utter exhaustion, resign themselves to their fate and collapse onto each other. The scene changes. It is now the morning of the next day. A man, most likely a surfer, taps on the car window, waking the girls. They see that the monster is gone now, and they can walk on the sand. The two let out heart-wrenching cries as they walk across the sand together, traumatized, and the man calls for an ambulance. The film ends with a chilling shot of the monster, its shape akin to that of a massive jellyfish, moving in the sea, headed towards another beach. Kaylee and Chanda survived, but alas, it seems like more will fall victim to the deviant.